Welcome to our YouTube channel. So as a part of our Polity PYQ series, today we are going to look into another Polity PYQ question. So today the question is, what are the emergency functions of the Union Government of India? Describe how they impact the legislative powers of Parliament and state legislatures. So this came in Polity in 2024. Okay, so as I told you, so whenever you look into a question, first you need to understand what are the keywords, and next what will be the demand of the question, right? So here, if you understand what are the keywords of the question, so what are the emergency functions of the Union Government? So emergency functions will be one of the keyword. Next, describe how they impact legislative powers. Okay, so next, legislative powers, right? So these are the two keywords that you need to ensure addressing while you are writing a question. Okay, so next we'll look into the demand. What is the demand of the question? See, as I told you, what are the emergency functions of the Union Government of India? Describe how they impact the legislative powers of the Parliament and state legislature. So if you see, the question is, looking in the appearance itself, it is a bit large. As I told you, whenever the question is a bit large, it is easy for us to understand the demand of the question, right? So here they are asking, what are the emergency functions, and describe how they impact legislative powers of the Parliament and state legislature. So here the demand should be addressed by stating the emergency functions. Emergency functions, like what are they, right? Next, legislative powers of Parliament and state legislature, how these two legislative powers are getting impacted. Okay, see, I'll tell you a small thing. So whenever they say this, all of you will get into mind that what are the negative impacts, right? So we will only focus on negative impacts while writing the question, but you need also to focus on the positive impacts as well. See, you know that every coin will have two sides, right? So for each and every action there will be a positive thing and negative thing. So we have to ensure that we will mention negative aspects and positive aspects as well in order to make this answer complete. Okay, then you will have a conclusion. Okay, that was done. So now let's look into the question, like how we need to write using these keywords and addressing the demand. Okay, so first we'll have our intro, right? So if you observe many toppers copies from UPSC mains, okay, so their intros will be very crispy and clear. Okay, so today we'll start our intro by stating that emergencies are part 18 of the Constitution and from Article 352 to 360, right? Yes. After that we can say that there are three types of emergencies. This also you can mention. Okay, so you can mention by a small diagram. Okay, so stating that is national emergency. Next we have state emergency, right? After that we had financial emergency. Okay, so in a bracket you can mention Article 352 it is Article 356 it is. After that we had Article 360, right? So that was done. This will be our intro. So next, when it comes to our body, so we'll use some other color so that you can understand the body well. Okay, so for body, if you observe what we can write in our body, so as I told you, the impact can be positive or negative, right? So now let's focus on what are the negative impacts that we are getting in terms of legislative powers between Parliament and state legislature. Okay, so if you observe, the negative impact is it reduces legislative autonomy. Okay, so autonomy, this type of words should be used while writing the answers. Okay, so legislative autonomy will be reduced for states. Okay, which means that it takes away the quasi-federal structure. Can I say that? Yes, so takes away quasi-federal structure. This is the first point. And the next point is under Article 251. You can describe something about Article 251, because if you observe in polity question answer writings, so you have to mention as many articles as possible. Okay, so whenever something comes in polity, so in terms of answer writing, you need to ensure as many articles as possible, and you can also ensure as many judgments as possible, and the relevant examples. Okay, so you have to mention about article 251, which makes, okay, so center to override the power of state legislatures, right? So this will be our second point. Next, third point. So third point, if you observe, parliament can extend, okay, they can extend the term of Lok Sabha and also state legislatures, right? Yes, so here you can state an example. See, as I told you, the relevant examples are necessary in order to fetch good marks, right? So if you consider the examples, you can say that in 1971 the Lok Sabha, so in 1971 Lok Sabha was extended, okay, so it was extended by 1 year. Okay, so that you can write as an example and make sure that you highlight it, okay, so that the evaluator can see it easily. Okay, so after that we'll have this is our third point, right? Yes, so after that, if you observe here you can also write an article actually. So here in Lok Sabha, under Article 82 subclause 3, okay, so subclause 2, it is not 3, so article 83, sorry, this article 83 subclause 2. Okay, so make sure that you will highlight this as well, okay, so the examiner can see it. As we know that we have to use as many articles as possible, as many judgments and relevant examples. Okay, so the next one, this is our third point. Okay, so next we'll have our fourth point. Okay, so if you observe, the state legislatives will be dismissed, right? So they will be dismissed. How you can take an example of this. Recently Manipur Legislative Assembly was dismissed temporarily. Okay, yes, okay, so when the power will be taken by Lok Sabha. Okay, so that you have to mention in your fourth point. After that we had a fifth point. What is the fifth point? Okay, so if you observe, anyone generally they'll focus majorly on the presidential emergency, that is presidential state emergency and national emergency, but you have to consider the financial emergency as well. Okay, so you have to write at least a 1 point. Though financial emergency has not occurred in India till now, but we have to ensure this financial emergency will also be addressed in our points. Okay, so if you observe, it reduces the financial autonomy of state governments. Okay, okay, so how will it reduce the autonomy? Because the state bills will no longer will be signed by the governor. It should be reserved for president, right? Yes, so in this way the autonomy will be reduced for state governments. Okay, so after that we'll have a sixth point. What is the sixth point? See, if you see, the negative impact is a lot of misuse of Article 356. So as Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had told, okay, so Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has told that it is more like a dead letter, but many political leaders has made it as a deadly weapon. So this should be written, okay. So you have to highlight this, okay. So that was done. So after that, can we write an example for this? Yes. So if you observe, in 1960s and 1970s, there was a lot of misuse of this Article 356, okay, by Indira Gandhi government, okay. So that you can mention here, okay. So many political leaders were arrested, okay. So it also violated their fundamental rights. So you can state that example, okay. So as we told that we have written one side impact, that is negative impact. What about the positive impact that you get? Okay, so the positive impact, we'll write it, okay. So the positive impact, if you consider the positive impact, see, in 1960s we had a national emergency because of war, right? Yes, okay. So in 1962, okay, so there was a national emergency declaration because of war, okay. So at that time, at that crisis situation, we need to have a speedy legislative decisions, right? So we need to have a speedy legislative decisions at that time, okay. So unitary power of this legislative power in the hands of Lok Sabha will ensure the fast and fair decisions in that crisis situation, okay. So at that time, this type of unitary power is very necessary in order to ensure a speedy decisions are made in that crisis situation, okay. So afterwards, this will be our 7th point. Next, let's look into our 8th point. So what is the 8th point? If you observe, it ensures absolute preservation of national sovereignty and integrity, right? So during the crisis situation, these type of powers are needed in order to ensure national sovereignty and integrity, right? Okay, the next one, if you observe Article 360, okay. So as you mentioned article, it's better if you highlight it, okay. So now Article 360, okay. So Article 360 ensures, it prevents financial collapse. As you know, so finance is a very important part of a nation's sovereignty. So Article 360 will help you in preventing financial collapse. In a long run, India can be a fair enough state, like we don't depend much on any other countries for the financial things, right? Yes. So that one, it is a positive impact. Then the last point is like, it helps in better harmonization. What is it? Harmonization of laws and public safety during crisis situation, okay. So during the crisis situation, like national emergency due to war or some sort of external aggression, so some sort of law should be made at that particular time in order to ensure public safety during the crisis situation. So see, if you observe, we have written 10 points regarding the demand of the question, right? We have written 10 points. So 10 points are like fair enough to fetch more marks, I can say. So next, let's focus on conclusion. So I'll tell you a trick. Whenever you had a positive impact and negative impact, your conclusion should be a balanced view, because being a bureaucrat, you can't take one side solely, okay. So balanced view need to be maintained. Okay, so how can we maintain the balanced view? So if you observe, we can maintain the balanced view by stating that though the emergencies are making constitutional compromise. How we are making a constitutional compromise? Because from quasi federal we are going towards a unitary structure, right? So though they are making, but through SR Bommai case, it is necessary that you need to maintain SR Bommai case judgment. Okay, SR Bommai case judgment and 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, so these two has made, okay, so they had created a vital checkpoints, vital checks and balances in order to use these emergency powers fairly. So you have to highlight this SR Bommai case judgment and 44th Constitutional Amendment Act in your conclusions. As I told you that cases, that is judgment of the cases and the amendments and the articles are very necessary to fetch more marks, right? See, this is the overall view that how we can answer a question in a better fashion. Okay, so now let's recall, have we covered all the keywords? So let's see. So here we have understood the keywords, like we wrote it about emergency functions, we wrote about legislative powers, we wrote. Next, do we accepted the demand? So like, do we write something about the demand? Yes, we have written, that is emergency functions, like what are they, and legislative powers of the parliament and state legislatures, how they are impacted because of this emergency powers, right? So today we understood like how we need to write. Okay, so the major point of the today's class video discussion is impacts can be positive and negative, and the conclusion should be balanced. Okay, so the conclusion should be balanced. Please ensure these type of things in your exam so that you can get a very good merit score. Thank you.